From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OU update. I'm Jenni Carlson here with Ryan Aber. Ryan, as you well documented from Morgantown, a must-win for the Sooners on Saturday, and they did win. But I think the question remains, what does that mean, and how could that impact things moving forward? It looks unlikely that the Sooners are going to be able to win the Big 12 at this point, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, there's 4 games left. They're 2 games behind Kansas. They don't have the tiebreaker, so they'd have to have the Jayhawks lose 3 games, which with their remaining schedule looks very unlikely. But they've accepted that. They're playing for second place in this league, but more importantly, they're playing for a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. And I know when they lost at Texas Tech, people said, oh, this team been a #1 seed. There's no way they're going to get it. Well, the problem is, who else are you going to put?
Yeah.
And this year in college basketball, with the amount of parity that we've seen, the teams losing. I mean, you just look at the AP poll. OU lost at #3 this week. Well, 4, 5, and 6 also lost at some point this week, so there's not a whole lot of ability to move up. And I know those rankings don't affect the NCAA Selection Committee, but that certainly displays what the NCAA Selection Committee, led by Joe Castiglione, is going to find when they get to determine who the #1 seeds are. I mean, Villanova and Kansas are pretty clear #1 seeds right now. But you've got Oklahoma, Iowa, Michigan State, several other teams right there in the mix where there's not a clear delineation like we've had the last couple seasons.
Well, and if you say Villanova is a clear #1, Oklahoma throttled them on a neutral court earlier this year.
Yeah.
And now you've got, I don't want to disparage Villanova, but they're playing in a conference that's not nearly as tough as the Big 12. So those are some things that the committee is going to have to look at.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially when you get to the scrubbing process, which Barry Trammell wrote about when he went up to Indianapolis for the mock selection. I mean, if you get a situation where OU and Villanova bump, if they're one's the #2 overall seed and one's the #3, then you're going to look at that head-to-head, and that's going to be a consideration to flipping Oklahoma ahead. So that is a shining light on Oklahoma's resume, but not just that. I mean, you've got the win at West Virginia right now. You've got
and swept West Virginia
Yeah,
this
swept
year.
West Virginia,
Yeah.
the number 10 team in the country,
Yeah.
although they got bumped out of #1 consideration, I believe, with their loss earlier in the week to Texas. But it's not just that win. They've got several other wins that stack up. I mean, the Big 12 is just really tough, top to bottom. And I know this isn't the record that OU would have liked at this point of the season when you talk about Big 12 play, but they're still right there in the thick of things.
By the way, when we talked about the schedule earlier that Kansas has left, they're at Baylor on Tuesday, then they host Texas Tech, then at Texas, and host Iowa State. So you could maybe see them losing a game, maybe 2, but probably not, as you mentioned, 3 or 4. But the Sooners do put themselves in a position after Saturday to maybe get, sort of continue this momentum. It looks like they've maybe figured out some things in terms of making up for some of these shooting woes that they've had over the last couple of weeks. What did you see, Ryan?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I thought that early in the game the shots weren't falling for them yet again, the outside shots that they've relied on so much this year. But what they did is they did everything else well. They played defense well. They rebounded very well, which was something that was interesting to see against a team that rebounds as well as West Virginia does. And they were able to be aggressive, get to the basket early, create offense like that, and then give them time for those outside shooting shots to fall. And they did late in the first half, and yet again late in the second half with Buddy Hield and Isaiah Cousins, who've been their offensive stalwarts all year, finally got those shots to fall and helped them spread the margin.
And we'll see what happens Wednesday night as they host Bedlam in Norman. See if the Sooners can continue the momentum we saw them build up in Morgantown. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.